Hi everyone, this is Dr. Ernesto from AttaBoyCowBoy, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about a question I often get from people. It says, Doc, how do you tie all this together? You know, the gut health, the mental health, the physical health. How can you kind of summarize all this stuff? And I'm going to share a story with you. When I first got out of school, I started working as an occupational therapist, and I used to work in schools. I worked in the inner city, South Central Compton, East Los Angeles, and then I also worked on the west side, Culver City, the Valley. And I learned something really interesting because a lot of these kids that were in the inner city, I saw that they had many more issues with learning. They had more issues with attention, they had more learning disabilities, and I thought, why is that? You know, and at the same time, I was studying nutrition and I was studying to be a naturopathic doctor. So of course, this was 25 years ago. So little by little, as my learning increased and my experience increased, I started making the connection. And I started noticing that when I was in the inner city, oftentimes the parents would pack the kids a lunch, but it wasn't really a lunch. It was like a bag of Cheetos and a Coke or a Pepsi. And I thought, oh man, that's not good. Not only is it not good for their weight, 'cause a lot of them tend to have a higher BMI or they tend to have more obesity than the kids I saw in the more affluent areas, but they tend to have more issues with learning. As I worked with the parents, you know, I'd coach them with how to feed them and try this and how about try this for a couple weeks. Let's get them on a soda-free diet. And I'd see the improvement. The parents would see it. The teachers would see it. They say, hey, this kid's less disruptive. He's paying attention, he's focusing. At home, the parents would say, oh, he's following directions, he's not as combative. So it was kind of an immediate improvement, okay? And at the same time, I also started working in mental health facilities. Predominantly, I was working with veterans, and I started seeing the same issues. I worked in a garden. It was called the Vet's Garden. We grew organic fruits and vegetables, and I implemented the same strategies. I'd have the patients eat healthy food, try to avoid processed food, sugar, salt, all that kind of stuff. Almost 100% of the patients, I would see an improvement in their function, mentally and physically. Okay, and I thought, wow, this is a really interesting thing. So anecdotally, I could say, okay, well, good diet equals better health, better mental and physical performance, less, secondary effects from their high cholesterol, their high blood pressure, their diabetes, all these other things. Their schizophrenia, they're schizoaffective, they're bipolar. So I would see improvements. Even though some of them were small, some were large, it varied. So now fast forward and I start learning about brain. The brain has about 100 million neurons in it. And of course, as we know, it does a lot of your cognitive function, your thinking, your behavior, all that kind of stuff, right? That's what we were always taught. But now as science has advanced, and remember, science is dynamic, so everything changes. So it's never like, but you said this a few years ago. I looked at some of my YouTube videos from like 7 years ago, and I said, wow, some of that stuff is different now. It's changed. That's a good thing. The frontiers of science are always changing. They're pushing forward. So you have about 100 million neurons in your brain, but you have about another 500 million neurons in your enteric system, which is like your gut, okay? We used to think all the thinking and processing went on up here, and now we know a lot of it also goes down in your stomach. So if you have good gut health, you'll have good mental health. If you have good mental health, you'll have good gut health. So they affect each other. Now, if you don't eat a healthy diet, then one will hurt the other. Obviously, your brain will be affected. So I see patients with depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these different things. I see them smoking, drinking Coca-Cola, eating processed food, eating candies. All that is going to affect their gut. So why? Because you have these cranial nerves. One in particular, it's called the vagus nerve. It's probably the largest nerve in your body. It's called the wanderer. That's what vagus means in Latin. And it basically connects your brain to your gut, all right? And this vagus nerve helps control your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like your digestion, your heart rate, your respiration. It impacts your speech, your mood. All these different things are controlled by your parasympathetic or your vagus nerve. So it's like the highway between the brain and the gut. Remember, 100 million here, 500 here. So you have much more firepower in terms of your cognitive functioning in your gut. So when you eat something, think about not only the impact on here, but down here. Because what you eat can have much more of an effect on your overall processing, your mental health, your physical health than we thought. Why? Because that takes us on to the third part. That is your microbiome. That's the bacteria. that kind of keeps everything together, okay? About 1 to 2% of your body weight is bacteria. Some people say it's up to 5%. So I'm 200 pounds, so I have about 2 to 10 pounds of bacteria in my body. That bacteria, that farm or that system, that colony is very specific to every person, okay? We studied this in microbiology. It was started when you were inside the womb of your mom. Your mom helped develop your bacteria in your body. Thanks, Mom. And like fingerprints, I recently read that the fingerprint is not only unique to the person, they said there's never been another person in human history, so thousands of years, that has had the same fingerprint as you. Well, your bacteria is kind of the same. It's the same deal. It's very unique. Now, it has different needs, okay? That translates to other things. So I did a Viome test, V-I-O-M-E, that looks at my bacteria, what bacteria I have in my body, which are more, it explains the specific population I have. And based on the bacteria, it gives suggestions on what food, what supplements I could take. That's helpful for me. I've changed some of the foods. I've taken some foods out. I've added some. Now you might say, well, aren't certain foods good for everybody? Well, my particular microbiome, spinach is not recommended. And you might say, well, why? Spinach is really healthy. Well, it depends on your genes, okay? Some people, like sometimes I see people that have ancestry from Asia, they didn't have cows back in the day in Asia. That's why if you look at like Japanese food or Chinese food or Thai food, they don't eat dairy products. They don't have cheese like the Italians do, because the Italians had cows. So a lot of people, I've read somewhere around 60% of Asians have an allergy to cheese. So if you have an allergy to cheese or to gluten or corn or shrimp, whatever it might be, those are foods that you should not eat because it's not going to be good for your gut. If your gut's not happy, your brain's not going to be happy. And then also it's going to affect your overall health. It's not going to be optimal. If you eat the foods that your body likes and functions the best with, then you're going to work optimally. Okay? If you're introducing allergens, you're going to have allergic reactions. Like let's say you're allergic to cheese or wheat, you eat cheese and wheat, your immune function is going to drop. Your cognitive function is going to drop. You're going to feel tired all the time. It does have effects. They might be subtle, but they'll be long lasting and they can be like your whole life. Like if you eat something every day it's not good for you, then it's not a good idea. It's going to lower your function. Now, how do you find out? Well, you can take this Viome test. But when you go to your doctor, you can also take a food allergy test. That's a good one. They take a blood test. They tell you what food you should eat. Both of them are good. In my opinion, the Viome is a little more extensive. It gives you more information. I also took it a step further. I took a 23andMe exam that looks at my genes, and it tells me a lot more information where I can tie in both of them. I explain all this in my book, The Hardcore Program, but understanding my genes helps me understand, again, what part of the world I'm from, what types of foods I should be. For example, I have a lot of ancestry from England, Scotland. They eat a lot of potatoes. So I'm not allergic to potatoes. I can eat potatoes. It helps you understand also what types of food. Now, back to the brains. 1, 2, and then you have the third part, the microbiome. The better all three of these work, the better you're going to function. Now, I see patients that have depression, anxiety, bipolar, and they're like, well, doc, my symptoms don't improve. I'm taking all these medications. Okay, whatever illness you have, whether you have diabetes, high blood pressure, you have depression, about 10% of the population has depression, or if you just want to feel better, you want to lose some weight, you just want to think better, you want to improve your memory, if you just want to function better in general, you got to think about what you can eat that would be best for you. Because again, whatever you put in your mouth is going to have a direct impact on your gut. Whatever affects your gut is going to affect your overall health, and it's going to affect your brain health. I'll give you an example. Today I made some lentils, salad, and I made some chopped fruit to eat for lunch, which I'll probably eat after I make this video. Then a friend of mine invited me to eat some Domino's pizza. Now, who doesn't like pizza? I love pizza, okay? I'm thinking about the salt, the cheese, all this good stuff that's gonna taste great. But then I have to think about, okay, if I eat that, the preservatives, the processed food is gonna affect my gut. It's gonna slow it down, it's gonna make me feel sluggish, and it's gonna feed colonies of bacteria that I don't want in my body, in my microbiome. Remember, your microbiome are colonies of bacteria. The good bacteria eat the good stuff, fruits, vegetables, beans, stuff like that. The bad bacteria likes to eat sugar, meats, junk food, processed food, stuff that's not the best for you. So then you start getting oversupply of this toxic stuff and they produce toxins. That's going to impact your function. It's going to make you gain weight. It's going to cause more symptoms. Like if you have depression, anxiety, stress, you're going to feel more of it. If you have schizoaffective, schizophrenia, you're going to have more issues. Okay? If you have problems with high blood pressure, indigestion, constipation, you're gonna have more problems. So if you don't want any of that, then, which I don't, so that's why I'm kind of thinking I'm probably just gonna eat the lentils. I'll eat the Domino's pizza later because nobody likes to feel inhibited, okay? I've been a vegetarian, ovo-lacto vegetarian 21 years. I never say I'm not gonna eat this or that. If I feel like it, I'll eat it. If I feel like having some baby back ribs, some fried fish, which are delicious, I'll eat it. I haven't done it 21 years, but if I ever feel like I really need it or want it, I'll eat it. But when I think about eating it, I think, cost-benefit analysis. I don't want to lose the high cognitive functioning, the good feeling I feel physically, my good health, to eating that, baby back rib or that fried fish. So whenever you're thinking about eating some junk food, think about the effects it's going to have on you, okay? Let me give you an example of serotonin. That's what they call the feel-good hormone, okay? When someone gives you a birthday cake or a big fat surprise, you feel good. You smile, you're like, oh, cool. I got this awesome surprise. Your brain starts to produce more serotonin. At least we thought your brain was producing it. Well, it does. About 5 to 10% of it. The other 90 to 95% is creating your stomach, okay? Serotonin is really important. It's a neurotransmitter, a hormone. It affects a lot of things in your body. It affects gut health, digestion, mood, mental health, bone healing, wound healing, and it even helps regulate your sleep. So if you don't produce enough serotonin, think about it, you're going to have problems with everything. You're not going to feel good, you're not going to think good, and you're not going to function good. Everything's going to be suboptimal, okay? Because 90 to 95% is produced in your stomach. Now, what can slow down that production? Coca-Cola, Pop-Tarts, Domino's Pizza, all this junk food. On top of it, of course, drugs, alcohol, smoking, all the other things. When I work in drug addiction clinics, I see patients and they're like, well, doc, how come I'm always feeling depressed? How come I don't feel happy? Well, because when you smoke marijuana, do coke or weed or meth or whatever, any of this stuff, opiates, you're basically stimulating your body to produce more of that serotonin so you feel good. So you get this euphoric feeling. You get high. Feels good. Thing is that you're forcing your body to overproduce, so you damage those cells and they start to die off. So now your ability to produce those feel-good hormones just starts declining. So now when they give you a birthday cake or a big fat surprise, you don't get as happy anymore. Instead of getting 10 out of 10 happy, now you're like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. So that makes the people get addicted to these drugs. It makes you use more and more to get the same high or the same good feeling that you would get, because you're becoming resistant and you don't produce as much. Okay, so that's how that can affect that. Now, if you consistently eat good food, that's a natural way to have a healthy gut, healthy microbiome, and your enteric system is going to function better. You're going to produce more of the serotonin. I smile, I'm happy, I feel good. I eat good. I eat a lot of vegetables, I eat fruits, I eat beans. I don't eat meats. I avoid processed foods as much as possible. I try not to use salt at all, sugar. There's a lot of things I don't eat. I just try to keep it real simple. I think as my food as like Socrates and the Greeks used to say think of your food as your medicine. Well, sometimes it's hard when you see a big piece of cheesecake or something, so sometimes I eat it, but for the most part, I try to keep it clean. I eat a clean diet, and I try to eat pro and prebiotics every day. About every day, I take a swig of kefir, which is really good. It has about 12 bacteria in it. I take a big spoonful of kimchi, has a lot of bacteria in it, and I take a big spoonful of sauerkraut. Now, the bacteria are what they call the probiotics, the good stuff. So you're trying to introduce good bacteria so you can improve your microbiome, increase the population of the good stuff, so they produce the good, so they produce more of the healthy, what they call metabolites. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about metabolites in a minute. Now, if you're eating sugar, you're eating junk food, you're eating a lot of meats, you're gonna produce bacteria that also produce toxins, and produce things that are not good for you. Okay? Now, what they call the probiotics is the bacteria. The prebiotics, you've probably heard that word before, is the food for those bacteria. Bacteria like fiber. That's what they eat. They like the fiber in fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and nuts, stuff like that, grains. So that's why I predominantly eat fruits and vegetables and beans. That's what I eat. And I eat nuts every day to get fats. And that helps you grow these healthy colonies that make your microbiome healthy, which produce these metabolites. Metabolites are like chemicals, and there's a lot of them. We don't even know what they all do. They control all sorts of functions in your body. That metabolites includes like vitamins, minerals, like B vitamins. You need bacteria to produce the B vitamins in your body, just to show you how dependent you are. Without bacteria, you're not alive, okay? Nobody would be alive. You depend on bacteria. They make sure a lot of things happen in your body. In fact, when they take samples of blood, they find plasma, they find immune cells, they find red blood cells, okay. But then they find 1/3 of your blood is made of metabolites. And they're like, what the heck? These metabolites are made by the bacteria in your gut. So think about that. This stuff is circulating all through your body. It's nourishing and feeding all of your tissue. It's in everything. And this is all controlled by that 1 to 5%, generally 1 to 2% of that bacteria that's in your body. So you want to keep that population healthy. The healthier they are, the healthier second brain or your enteric system that has the 500 million neurons is going to be, and that's going to make sure that you have also a healthier brain with the other 100 neurons. And that's why when I hear people make comments like, oh, I got butterflies in my stomach, or I'm sick to my stomach. Well, it's true, because your brain is connected by the highway, the vagus nerve, to your gut. So you're going to feel things in your gut and your brain. It's all connected. And it is intertwined. So your feelings are also going to be felt in your stomach, your decisions, everything. So if you're thinking you want to do good on a test, or you're losing your memory, you want to improve your memory, or you don't feel good, you're in a bad mood, think about what you're eating, because it's going to impact everything. It's going to affect your gut, your enteric system, your microbiome, and your brain. Now, this connection is so strong that you can often feel it just after one meal. Sometimes I go to Costco and I'll get a Costco pizza and I'll eat it. I immediately feel sluggish and tired, and I feel like I need to take a nap. And then I often have times going to the bathroom, and I have other issues. But when I eat healthy, I eat my lentils, or soups or salads or whatever I eat, vegetables or fruits basically. I feel happy. I'm smiling. My energy level doesn't drop. I'm able to focus, and I'm able to do more things. So there's a direct correlation between the diversity of the plants that you're eating and the good food you're eating, and your obesity levels, your high blood pressure, your dementia, your depression, your anxiety. So there's a direct link between what you eat and basically all of your health disorders. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have any health disorders. Well, you may not have any, but you want to work at your optimal function like anybody. So the way you're going to improve your overall health is you're going to eat good, and that's going to feed the good bacteria. That's going to make sure you have a healthy enteric or gut, and then your brain's going to be healthy. You're going to be happier. So thank you for listening. I'm from South America. This is Dr. Ernesto. Thank you, and goodbye.